Welcome to bLUtalks. Wanted to talk about single mothers today. I was raised by a single mother. I get asked often about how to achieve success, and I think sometimes we forget about the people that help us get to where we're trying to get to and help us achieve our goals. For me, one of those people was my mother. I got to watch her raise me during a difficult time in her life. She always exhibited some traits that I was able to model later in life, like she put me first a lot of times. She showed kindness even when it wasn't easy to do so. She showed faith. She decided to believe that she could achieve certain things even when it might be extremely tough, and so on. But again, my mother helped me to, in my opinion, see what was possible through her eyes. And so first of all, I'd like to thank my mother for doing that. I'd like to send a salute out to the single mothers of the world, but also a quote that speaks to me, and I'd like to paraphrase it a bit, is the quote that says, "Behind every great man is a great woman." Well, in my case, I'd like to say that beside every great man is a great mother, and in this case, a single mother. My question, to kick things off, is how many people would say that customer service, in their opinion, as a general rule, has gotten worse overall?
Yeah.
So, most of the hands. And so I want to talk about this today in a very unique way. And I'll get to that in a minute, but I thought I at least should start by telling you about myself. So, I grew up in a small little tiny town. I was raised by a single mother. I barely graduated high school. So when I say I barely graduated high school, I got a 49 plus 1 in one of my grades, where a 50 was a pass. And I always say, thank you, Mr. Gunn, because he gave me the 1% to allow me to pass. And I'll tell you, when that first happened, that stuck with me. I actually carried that as a negative, and now it's a badge of honor. So now I say thank you, because it taught me a valuable lesson. But when it first happens, you kind of take it as an insult. So you're telling me I really didn't graduate high school, you had to give me the plus 1. But I don't know if this was his meaning, but it was almost like, to me I took it as there's no freebies in life. You have to earn this. And you barely earned this, and I want that to stick with you. So that's kind of how I took it. So I only tell you this to tell you that my life wasn't always easy. You heard the mini bio, and I have to always say that life wasn't always like that. And so I started this long journey as this guy in a small town who was raised by a single mother. And so this is the unique take I'm going to share today, is this talk, what it could be called, is what I learned from my mother about standing ovations. In essence, what I learned from my mother about delivering high-level customer experiences. And so I want to share with you what I learned from this single mother about customer service. And so, people should never show that picture of themselves in public. I don't even remember what year that was, but I'm going to say probably I was 16, in that range. But that was amazing, wasn't it, that mustache? I wore that with pride. And that's my mother. So I was raised by a single mother. And what I wanted to tell you about that is I want to talk today about what I learned by watching her example. But also, I asked you guys about customer service and what your experience is with it. And so I put this up because this banner represents a company I used to own called Island Business News. So with Island Business News, it was a small business newspaper. And within the newspaper, we were lucky because we had thousands of clients that we could go to and survey about customer service. And so interestingly enough, I went to a number of companies and asked them, where do you think you rate in customer service? Like, what are your key attributes as a company that make you successful? And is customer service one of them? And this may or may not surprise you, but about 80% said that they were knocking it out of the park with customer service. So then I decided to do a second survey, and I went to their clients. And when I say their clients, I mean I went to the clients in that area, and I asked a similar question. And it may or may not surprise you that about 15% agreed with them, that they were delivering high-level customer service. So when I asked you guys how many people think it's getting worse, the interesting part is the businesses themselves don't seem to realize that. And so that's why I think this is important to talk about, because somebody might say, well, I would use this platform just to talk about customer service, but I believe it's representative of everything. It's etiquette, it's who we are as people. It's how we deal with people, how we serve people, and it's also the experience they have. To give you an example, yesterday we went to a museum. And at the museum, almost all the staff were amazing, except for the lady in the gift shop. But here's the problem with that. Guess who we saw last after our experience? The lady in the gift shop. So what does this mean? Our last memory of this place is the poor customer experience with that lady. So when we walk away, there's a chance we might not recommend people to go there because of one person, and it was our last impression. That's how powerful customer service is. And this, by the way, is a museum for children. So we have our child in there, and the lady couldn't be less friendly to her child who's joking around and playing and stuff, and she's almost giving him dirty looks. And so that's our experience as parents, and so it makes us less likely to recommend it. So I think that's how important customer service is and why I would use this platform to talk about it, because I also think it's going in the wrong direction. So why do I say that? There's a book called Crowning the Customer by a guy named Fergal Quinn. If you haven't read it, I highly recommend you do. I think it was written in the late 70s. And Fergal Quinn owned a thing called Super Quinn in Ireland, I believe it was. And he owned this store that was highly successful. They were doing a great job at customer service. And in the book, what I thought was interesting is Fergal Quinn said, and this is again, I think late 70s, we're on the cusp of a revolution. Customer service is going to be better than it's ever been before. Look what we finally get. We now get it. And here we are in 2019, and I just asked you the question, and almost every hand went up saying, we're worse than we are. We're worse than we were then. And he thought we were going to get way better. So this is why I think it's a concern. It's almost like the thing that everybody's ignoring, but it's impacting every one of us every day. That's why I think it's important. So, here's the interesting part as well. I don't know if you guys agree with this, but customer service has also been changing in terms of how we view it. And also what's kind of the high of the moment as it relates to customer service. So for example, I think in the 70s, and I'm throwing rough numbers out here, but I think in the 70s and the 80s, we talked customer service. And I'm using the term right now freely, but we talked, I'm going to deliver great customer service. And then I think we went to customer satisfaction. We're going to deliver amazing customer satisfaction. And then Apple comes along, and I'm not just saying it was them, but Apple comes along with this technology that a lot of people would say delivered what we weren't expecting. And there were a lot of other companies, like there were a lot of online.com companies doing this as well. Even you think of Amazon, the stuff they were able to do online that people before had to be in person to deliver at that level. What happened, I think we moved into customer innovation. So now we're innovating for our customers. So the question becomes, where are we now? And when I say we're there, this is where I think we are in terms of what people are trying to achieve and what optimally we should be doing, not necessarily what we're always doing. But the last one, the one where we are today in my belief, is customer personalization. So customer personalization to me means we should be personalizing the experience to the customer. We should be making it truly about the customer. That's where I think we should be. I think, would you agree that more than ever people are wanting the experience to be customized to them? Personalized to them?
Yep.
And the proof of that, by the way, if you think about it, is reality TV and karaoke. Why do I say that? What does reality TV allow us to do? What does YouTube allow us to do? We now can be our own media. We can make our own movies. So we want to be part of the experience more than ever before. Karaoke is no better example. I thought karaoke would have been gone after a year. And here we are, I don't know how long it's been going now, not a fad, but going at bars, but I mean we're pushing probably 20 plus years. And it's still going strong at a lot of places. But to me, karaoke is the same example. We want to be the rock star on the stage rather than the rock star. So if those are the cases, I think we want stuff customized to us. Because now we want our shows customized to us, we want our songs customized to us. So I believe we're in an era of customer personalization. Now when I say that, I mean most people aren't doing it, but I think that's where the money's at. And I don't even mean physical money or financial money, I just mean that's where we should be. So what I wanted to talk to you today, and this is a condensed version, I usually deliver 5 steps minimum to how to get a standing ovation from your customers. Today I'm going to talk about 3. And people always ask me why standing ovations, and this ties a lot into my background because I was a musician. As some people know, I was a stand-up comic, both of those for years. And what I used to do is I used to watch, what are the musicians and comics doing to get a standing ovation? Why is a band like the Rolling Stones able to charge $500 for a ticket and sell out? And then you go to the local club and hear it's $5 and go, $5? Nah, next time. Why does the local band struggle to bring people in for $5 and the Rolling Stones are getting $500? And there's some other variables, obviously the history of their music and all that kind of stuff. But what I'm getting at is I believe it also ties into, they know how to get a standing ovation. And some of it ties into when they play the certain songs, right? They start out with the second strongest song, they do the encore with the biggest song. I mean, there's there's psychological sides to that, but at the end of the day, I still believe they're getting a standing ovation because they're doing certain things. So I'm going to share 3 of those today, and going back to the original theme, these are 3 that I learned from my mother. So the first one is making it about your customer. So this ties fully into personalization. This is what I would call personalizing it for your customer. And by the way, when I did these surveys that I mentioned, when I asked people, do you make it about your customer? 100%. Everybody said they did, but I don't think they really got what I was meaning. They might think when the customer asks the question, they answer it. That's making it about them. To me, I'm going high level. I'm saying personalize the experience. So if they come in and they're asking for a laptop, I'm saying you actually, you start talking to them saying, well, tell me about your last laptop. What did you hate about it? What did you love about it? Like actually getting into their experience, rather than just saying, oh, you should see the brand new one we got that I make the biggest commission on. Because that's what tends to happen. So I'm saying really personalize it. So my mother, how does this tie into her? If you meet my mother and you talk to her for 10 minutes, at some point in your life you're going to get a personalized gift from my mother. Now when I say personalized, I don't mean just something that she puts your name on it or she messages it to you. I mean she figures out your personality and sends you a gift based on your personality. So if you like turtles, you're probably going to start getting turtles, as an example. And she does that for everybody she meets. And guess what? People love my mother because of this. They get stuff in the mail and say, oh, you're always thinking of people. You're always thinking of who we are and what we like. And so that to me is personalizing it to your customer. That's going next level. Would you agree with that? That's going next level? So let me give you an example of how you can do this. Because one thing is what I learned from my mother, but I want to tell you how you can apply this to your life. And by the way, the picture up there on the screen is for my uncle and aunt's birthday party. You know, most people just sign a card. My mother's doing like calligraphy, and she does a whole bunch of different other things she'll add to the cards. You see, actually, like the butterflies, it's because she knows they like butterflies. The heart is because it's the anniversary. And she's got this all dialed in. But to me, the takeaway is, if you can recognize who the person is, and then customize the situation to them, you're going to stand out. So this personalizing the customer, how I recommend people do it, there's a lot of ways, but I'm going to give you one simple one, but at the same time, the one I'm going to give you is game-changing, and companies bring me in to talk about this one for full days at a time, and I'm going to tell it to you in about 1 minute. So, actually, I know one person here has seen me talk about this before, but what I'm talking about is how do you adjust to personality types? Your ability to adjust to personality types and read personality types will allow you to customize an experience to your customers, whether you're selling in an environment that's like a box store or whether you're selling life insurance. If you can figure out the person's personality type and adjust to them, you are going to go miles further than the person that sells to everybody the same way. And I know this firsthand because when I sold photocopiers for a living, yes, you heard that correctly, sold photocopiers for a living, not for the faint of heart. But I did that for a number of years, and my first couple of years, I sold to everybody the same way. I was this high-energy guy, young, small, kid from a little province in the country, and I was like, "Hey, how's it going, buddy?" And they're all like, "I don't know what they're on, but get this guy to my office." And I didn't get the idea of adjusting to them. So what happened was, I came along this idea of personality types at some point, and I'm like, I finally get it. Because if there's 4 different personality types, which they pretty much, most of the personality type sessions have, and tests and stuff have figured out there's 4. So if there's 4 personality types, and I'm only selling to that one high energy person in an effective way, what does that mean? I'm losing 75% potentially, right? The 75% that I'm not adjusting to, they're like, who is this kid? And they don't get me at all. So when I finally understood the importance of adjusting to them and could adjust to each of the 4, it changed everything. So what do I mean by this in action? It means that if I'm talking to somebody and it's hard to get stuff out of them, they're very tight-lipped, they're very aloof if we want to say, then I should know how to adjust to that. But what if they're super high energy and talkative? Then I should be able to become a chameleon and adjust to that. And so if a customer comes in and they're talking your ear off, then maybe you want to be a bit more social with that customer even if you're not a social person. But you might get the other scenario, which is even more important. Somebody comes in, and I say it's more important because they're the ones that will get pissed off if you don't do it. But let's say you come in, and you're talking to a client, and this person says, I got 10 minutes. And they're like, I got 10 minutes, make it happen. And you don't adjust to that, you're going to lose that person and never get them back. So what I'm suggesting is, if you want to personalize the experience to your customer, figure out who they are as a person, and adjust to that. And let me ask you this question before I move on to number 2. If you think of yourself going into that big box store, going in to buy something, What do you prefer? If you go in and you're not talkative at all, and you're not a very social person, and there's a certain personality type I list this with, but let's say you're that person, you go in and you say, hey, how's it going? And this person goes, not bad! And they jump in your face and they're ready to talk your ear off. Do you like that? If you're that person?
No.
Probably not. But if you're that super high energy person, you go in and the person's like, yeah, whatever. And they have no time for you, you're not going to like that. Would you guys agree with that?
Agree.
So, my point of this is figure out who the person is and the personality type and be willing to adjust somewhat to them. That's your first way you can truly make it about the customer to get a standing ovation. The second one, I noticed it says step number 3 up there. The second one is know how to adjust on the fly.
Yeah!
So, this one here is about what I call being in the moment with your customer. And what I'm going to tell you is, this right now is probably the hardest one for most people to do, and it may be close to the most important. So the picture up there, the picture up there of my mother is with my son. And when my mother's with my son, nothing else matters. And I'm going to admit this, which I shouldn't publicly, but there's times whenever me and my girlfriend have something going on work-wise and we're on the phone for a minute or two while the son's playing. I'll admit that we're that person. To my mother, not a chance. When he's there and she's with him, she's all in with him. So another lesson that you can learn from my mother is the importance of being all in with your customers. But why do I say this is more important than ever before? Would anybody here agree we're more distracted as a society, and as a general rule, than we've ever been?
Yes.
So the point is, if that's the case, think of how powerful it is for your customers if you're not the distracted person. If you're truly in the moment with your customer, with your person and your customer. And so that's what I'm suggesting, is be truly in the moment. So when I say it's a challenge, I don't know if you guys know the statistics, but right now, they've figured out that our attention span, first of all, is for the first time in history shorter than a goldfish. This is on the front of Time magazine. A goldfish, I think, is 8 seconds, and their attention span's for 8 seconds, and ours is 7.7, I think was the numbers. So for the first time in history. Secondly, I went to a conference one time, and a doctor was up speaking about this, and they've done studies, and they've shown that checking your messages releases dopamine and endorphins. So what they figured out is this means that this isn't just a habit anymore, guys. This is an actual addiction. So think about this. If it's an addiction, and it's not changing a whole lot, what happens when you're going in to be served by somebody? A lot of times, do you agree? Have you ever had this where you go in to be served by somebody, wherever the place is, and that person is looking at their phone and goes, I'll be with you in a minute? And that's the start of your experience? Or by the way, the girl I mentioned at the museum, she was doing that while we were there. That's the finish to our experience. So what I'm suggesting is, yeah, our phones probably are more important to us than they ever were before, but when you're in front of somebody, make it about them. Be there with them. So all I'm suggesting is be in the moment. And again, even doing that gives you an advantage now. Because guess what? Most people aren't. Most people are distracted. So if you can be the one that's not distracted, you can change the game. And let me ask you this, would you agree that you've gone into a store and had somebody that's fully with you and on you, and you've had the other experience of somebody that's totally not with you at all? Would you agree that the experience when they're fully with you is a better experience for you?
Yes.
There's a better chance you're going to tell somebody else and go back again?
Yes.
Now, one other thing I want to say, which I think is important to note, is I don't get why people see the benefit of being rude in a customer service perspective, or are not even talking to you, or not looking you in the eye, or saying, sorry, that's somebody else's job. I don't get it because, even if you're selfish, wouldn't you agree you're going to have a better day treating people well, even if you don't want to do it? Like, I don't get the idea that when you treat somebody poorly, then they treat you poorly back, you get that energy back. Even if you're a selfish person, it would make more sense for you to treat people well. Even if you believe in karma and you think it's a real scoreboard in the sky, that somebody's keeping notes and track, you're going to have better karma if you treat people better. Even if you're doing it for selfish reasons, probably. Because I don't know if karma weighs that out. I don't know that answer. There's some people here in the audience that can probably tell me different. But hopefully you get my point. There's a vested interest for you to treat people well. So I don't even get why people don't. To me, it only makes sense to treat people well. And then the next step is delivering the wow, or the unexpected. So I talked about my mother and some of the things I learned from her. This is something I learned vicariously through my mother. So my mother had a mail lady, a new mail lady started coming to her house. And the first time the mail lady went there, she apparently saw my mother had a dog, who was my mom's best friend, and she dropped the mail off, And then my mother went out to the mailbox, and there was a dog biscuit inside. So she said to the lady, after that, you didn't have to drop off a dog biscuit for my dog and stuff. And she said, you know what? I love animals. I saw you had a dog. Why not pay it forward? And I'll ask you this question. How many people here have had their, whether it's their, I'll say the courier, mail person, what have you, drop off dog biscuits for your dog? So only 2 hands in the room. And that's, by the way, a bigger number than normal. I don't see that often. And so people don't typically go that far. I will say, if you've ever heard of The Fred Factor, a book by a guy named Mark Sanborn, he talks about the mailman he had who came to the door and brought a letter and saying, this is what you can expect from me in the future. The mailman said this. And then he said, after a couple of trips, he said, I see you're a speaker and you're probably on the road a lot. Your mail will probably bundle up and pile up, and I don't want somebody to steal your mail. Did you want, just tell me whenever you're doing it, did you want me to hold it at the post office? Let me know when you're back and I'll bring it to you for free.
Wow.
And he wrote a book called The Fred Factor about Fred the mailman based on this. But my point of this is my mother's mail lady was dropping off a biscuit. And to tell you how far this went and how powerful this was, my mother went away for 4 days. And she was gone on a trip, and actually she was gone on a trip to do surgery. So I mean, it was a stressful trip. And she comes back home, and she opens the mailbox, and there's 4 dog biscuits. My mother was gone 4 days for a long weekend. And so she said to the lady, I think her name was Barb, but she said to the lady, let's say Barb, Barb, you didn't have to drop off those, I was gone away. I wouldn't have known the difference. And she said, yeah, and my mom's dog's name was Scamp Hill, pretty unique name. She said, yeah, Nancy, but just because you were gone away doesn't mean Scamp Hill should have to suffer. And so she was dropping off the dog biscuits for Scamp Hill. Would you guys say that's a wow?
Yeah.
For somebody, by the way, who has no real vested interest to deliver a wow. You know, there's no for sure that she's going to get anything out of doing this. And I can sit here and for an hour talking about wows that I've watched companies deliver. But what I want you to know is when you can figure out a way to deliver the unexpected that makes somebody walk away saying wow from an interaction, you've got them for life. I'll give you one more example just so this really hits at home. Actually, a friend of mine was working at a salon, and she had a really good customer, an older customer. And the customer's name was Rose. And so Rose, the customer, came in one day, and it was Mother's Day. And she came into the salon, and my friend said, Rose, you're usually so happy, but you don't look very happy today. What's going on? And she said, well, my 2 kids are away. They're living away now. It's the first year I won't be with them on Mother's Day. And so she said, so I'm just kind of down over that. And she had told my friend before, if you ever want to come over and visit me, you have my address on the computer, come and see me. So what my friend decided to do when I picked her up, she said, can you drive me to the flower shop? And so she got me to drive her to the flower shop, and she bought a dozen roses for Rose. And we drove over to Rose's house, and I stayed in the car, and she went in to bring the roses into Rose. And about an hour later, like they were in there bonding, an hour later, she comes out of Rose's house. The 2 dogs are going crazy, licking her. Rose's husband, I found out when she got to the car, gave her a patch that he got in the war for saving somebody's life. And he said, you're like the granddaughter I never had. My question, and by the way, Rose was in tears, my friend was in tears. My question to you guys is, what would she have to do now to lose Rose as a customer? She probably couldn't do it. That's the power of wow. So I want you to take away the power of delivering wows for your customer. And then, as we start bringing things to a close, I want to share with you what I think is one of the secrets to delivering world-class customer experiences. If you take a list with you, this is how easy customer service could be if we made it this easy. If you take a list with you, a list of paper in your pocket, and every time somebody does something for you that makes you go, wow, you wrote that down. And then every time somebody does something to you that makes you go, I can't believe they did that, that was terrible, and write that down. And you look at that list, and on the list of the things that make you go, wow, you start doing that always for customers. And on the list that makes you go, I can't believe they did that, that was terrible, and never do that to customers, you're already 90% ahead of most business owners, of most employees, and most people delivering customer experiences. That's the secret to customer service. Just do what makes people say wow, and don't do what makes them not say wow. So winding things down with my mother, I told you guys 3 secrets that my mother shared me about delivering customer experiences and getting standing ovations. And what I want to share with you guys is whenever we were struggling. So again, my mother was a single mother. I grew up in a small town. We didn't have money. She didn't pay for my university and college. I went to college on not even my dime. I had to borrow money to go to college. It wasn't easy. We reached a point at one point where her paycheck was barely covering the bills. And one Friday night, she actually asked me, can we use some of the collectible coins that we have to buy subs for supper? You know, that was kind of the lowest of lows. You know, we had to use collectible coins just to get subs for supper. And I said to her the other day, it's a good thing coins aren't worth as much as they used to be now, because I would always wonder if we gave away the $1 million coin. But people don't seem to collect coins like they used to, so I think we're okay. But that, you know, that's how rough it was. And this is sharing with you a bonus about customer service. And it's what I call the customer service compassion factor. And so my mother, what she did one time, and I gave you that story about the coins to tell you how low money was, because she worked for 2 weeks one time, overtime, to buy me a winter jacket. And so she bought me this winter jacket. I go to school, we write my name on the inside. You guys remember that? Anybody had their name written on? Yeah. So she wrote my name on the inside. We brought it to school, and at the end of the first day of school that I had my new jacket there, I went to go pick it up in the rack. I was the last one leaving, and there was this jacket that looked the same but filled with holes. It was just ratty old jacket. And so I knew who did it, because I knew who had the same jacket as me. I saw it earlier that day. I recognized it because I had this new jacket. And so I brought it home to my mom and said, we gotta go get my jacket. This guy took my jacket. You worked all this hard for this jacket. And I'll never forget it. My mother said, you know what? I know that guy's family. I know the life he's having. And at the end of the day, he needs that jacket more than we ever will. So I will find a way for us to get another jacket. That on its own taught me more about customer service than I'll probably ever learn from somebody else. What do I mean by that? If you can serve with compassion, if you can think about that customer's outcome and say, it's so important to me for them to have that outcome that I'll do whatever I can to do it, you're already ahead of most. So serve with compassion. So having said that, here's your takeaways. Make it about your customer, so personalize it to your customer. Be in the moment with your customer. Deliver the wow or the unexpected. And have empathy and compassion for every customer you come across. Most people won't do this, but I'm saying be different. Don't be most people. And how all this relates is maybe, just maybe, I share with you guys the glim overview of how customer service isn't going in the right direction. Maybe, just maybe, if we each start being the change, as Gandhi said, that we want to be in our world, we can maybe start changing customer service for the better, even 1% at a time. Thank you guys.